We're taking back control over our reality and our life and our psyche. And we can only do that when we know we're absolutely in total alignment with the mother. But from that place, you can will the world around you to come into alignment just by your love and your authenticity. It really comes down to the power of your truth. So this is what's welling up with this Mercury retrograde. It was kind of like, oh, we're getting somewhere. I'm finally going to break free. It's like I'm stepping into the life of my dreams. I don't care what anybody says. And then this Mercury retrograde just kind of pulling back the reins yet again. And yet this Mercury retrograde is completely different than other Mercury retrogrades. And you might get more done in this 2-month period, 6-week period of time than you could the whole year on certain things, even though you technically can't get much done in Mercury retrograde. So that's kind of the weird energies that are going on. Because really we're unraveling and moving on in the next chapter from the Mars retrograde that started in energy in October 2024. It was retrograde December, January, February, and went from Cancer, Leo, Cancer. So it was about our warrior, masculine, trying to shine in the Leo, beginning degrees of Leo, but having to go back to mother, having to get aligned with what really matters before he can really go to battle. And then does he want to go to battle? And this is everything that we're addressing right now with Mars and square to Venus. The battle of the sexes, the battle of the opposites. And what happens when they look across a battlefield and they say, hey, you're one of us and I'm one of you. What are we doing fighting each other? Boom. Wait, hold on. And then joining together for a common cause. So this is what's unfolding. But the message is that because Venus and Mars are coming into square, but just before they come into an exact square, which is from the 23rd to the 25th, they will be interacting with the nodes of the moon at 19 degrees. Then they come into square at 20 degrees and 21 degrees. This is so powerful because Mars and Venus both interacting with the nodes of the moon at 19 degrees. 19 is the number of the ultimate authority because it's got the one, the wholeness, the all. It's got 9, the end, and it's got 9 and 1, a new beginning. And so it's about there is no higher authority than the ultimate authority. Now, maybe some people would call this God, but God might be more programming too, but we can see and feel Mother Earth nurturing us. And so the message coming through from her is that she is the queen here, because in the manifest world that we're living in here, in this consciousness of bodies with real, she reigns supreme, right? Because she's the raw materials, all things, us as co-creators from that place of power where we're doing it from here, in total alignment. But it's like this right here, I can make this shift that makes it right in the world for me and maybe for everyone else, because it's coming from a place of love and devotion and alignment with Mother Earth. That we have the power of the universe at our disposal only if we are fully and completely and know in our heart and soul we're in alignment with Mother Earth. Because a lot of times we'll feel this growing connection to the Mother energy, but then we'll come across a subtle shame, that makes us feel not worthy of her love. Just when it's starting to well up within us, we'll reject it. You know how it is? Because we've never really been loved, SuperNova souls, but maybe we didn't get that authentic love because we had to go find the real authentic love. Oh, the ultimate authority is the real authentic love, and that's you. The energy of love has a certain vibration. The authenticity of love blows it off the charts. So the fact that Venus and Mars are masculine and are feminine and masculine planet, both interacting with the nodes of the moon. Now, the nodes of the moon are about destiny It's about the future and the past, and it's a crossroads. The nodes of the moon aren't an actual body out in space. It's just like a vacuum of energy where the axis, the path that the sun takes, and the path that um, the orbit, the path of the sun and the moon, where they intercept. So that's always a changing point. And so when the planets interact with the north and south node, it's about destiny. So here we are. We've got our feminine destiny and our masculine destiny at 19 degrees. Mars, 19 degrees Virgo. Venus, 19 degrees Gemini. Exactly where they've been weakest. You know, Venus, our feminine, lost her voice. If she kept her voice, we would never be in this mess. You know, Mars lost his connection to the earth and the goddess, and he gave up fighting for her and started fighting for treasures and control. So it's almost like where they've wronged the most, they're writing. And this is everything the 2025 astrology seems to be about. And maybe that's kind of coming back to that Jupiter square Saturn, that generational change, that marker. It's like there's a turning of the tide, and it's a righting of the wrongs, a righting of one really big wrong. It's kind of the message. That's the time we live in. It's the definition of what we're doing. And so Venus and Mars. So first of all, the first thing that happens is that Mars comes into, on the 21st today, Mars in exact conjunction to the South Node. So the South Node is at 19 degrees Virgo. And so we're talking about the ultimate authority that we all have to come back to in the end. It has to do with the earth. It's Virgo and healing and cleaning up and sorting through. So it's like kind of saying, who's the ultimate authority of Earth? It's Mother Earth. But we are her boots on the ground. We're her soldiers and her children and her lovers and her body. And it's the most beautiful experience to live as her body and consciousness. And they've stolen this from us. You could call it the garden. And now we take it back. So that's what seems to be what this is about, because Mars with the South Node in Virgo is saying we got to get going on cleaning up the earth. But like it's this whole thing of Mars going back into Cancer and coming back to the mother and coming back to what really matters. And so in Virgo, he's wondering if he's recognized and received, if he's good enough. You know, he wants to fight for her. And then he's coming up against the voice of the feminine that has long been suppressed, you know, with Venus and Gemini. So Venus and Mars will come into exact square, like I said, from the 23rd to the 25th, first at 20 degrees, then at 21 degrees. So in interaction with the nodes at 19, we're talking about the ultimate authority. And in this realm, the ultimate authority is Earth. And then, because she holds the resources, and then her stewards would, of course, be her authority representatives. And so Venus squares up with the nodes on the 22nd, and that means that Venus and Gemini will be in square to the North Node in Pisces, and then also in square in a T-square with the South Node in Virgo. So this is saying that this is kind of what we were talking about with this shift and what the Mercury square black moon Lilith is bringing up. There's a very powerful dynamic that we have just accepted in our field from the Piscean age. Those of us who have shown up and tried to do healing and light work, you know, and helping the people, and then the persecution of the light. It created this energy of shame, of programmed shame. And of course, we know the beginning of the programmed shame goes all the way back to the fall of Atlantis, or I'd say the very first Atlantean catastrophe, which also is where our drama starts, SuperNova souls, because we blamed ourselves. But with this Venus So what happened is that the feminine, or the intuition, the healing, the psychic, the connection to the earth, the love, the care, that became suppressed. It became told it was evil, wrong, and bad. And so we are, what happens for supernova souls, and this is something subconscious, but we're starting to recognize it so we can change it, that a lot of times the more you show up in the light of the truth of who you are, all unapologetically, the more you might get a reaction from people around you. And it's really interesting, because what I see is that supernova souls up to this point have just accepted that. Well, that's just the way it is. Okay. If I'm going to go and show who I am in the world, it's going to come with a reaction, a judgment, a shame, a persecution, an attack, a tearing down, whatever. And this is where that power within is kind of like, oh, no, 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 this is reality. And I will no longer accept that negative for my positive. My positive doesn't need a negative. This is outside of the duality consciousness, this positive, because it's mother's work. And so when you are in alignment with mother, there is no harm done. So it's really, really important. So it's like the only way we can get out of the program shame around who we are as light that was inflicted upon us by Piscean age persecutions is to come back into this, this authority, this abundance, this knowing of who we really are, and our authority in ourselves. So this is really interesting, because Venus is saying, I'm not going to accept, like, it's time to clean up the earth, and I'm not going to accept the trauma, drama programming of the Piscean age. The beautiful light worker healer in me, no longer, the negative shame or judgment does not stick anymore. It just can't even come anywhere near this vibration. And so you could see that as the whole feminine. She's not scared of who she is. She's not apologizing. She's in full contact with her voice and her authenticity and her intuition and her emotions. And so when that 19 degree Venus in Gemini has found her voice or steadied herself enough, and then in the square with Mars, who's fighting to be worthy enough to be a warrior for Earth, to really do the work, to really do the healing, And so they know they need each other. And this is the absolute mystery of these times that we're in, because 19 degrees of Venus and Mars meeting up with the nodes, having their own dance with the nodes. Then when they square, they're at 20 and 21. So they dance with the nodes of destiny, and they say, I'm whole and complete. I'm ready to go make some power, because what we thought was a battle of the sexes, or the battle of any opposite, and right and left and red and blue and all that, it's like that. We thought that was destructive, but the perfect balance of opposites creates a scalar wave. It's power, right? So they've been getting us to create static electricity, while we have no, keeping from us deliberately the knowledge of our full electricity available. And so it's this incredibly powerful moment where the opposite sides come to work together to heal from the place of wholeness. It's the divine marriage within each of us, our masculine and feminine, and then the whole masculine and the whole feminine person being able to come together in the wholeness, whatever, representing the masculine and the feminine, overcoming this opposition, not running away from the drama, but standing in the power of the static to create electricity and the scalar wave of exponential power. That's what they didn't want us to know. It makes so much sense that we got the message that was banned and outlawed way before we were even on this planet, starting with the last planet, Lyra, the most powerful force of the universe that's been completely worked against. The sexual expression of spiritual soulmate love. It's what's powered our villages for eons. And so that became taboo, and that was part of the reason and all the things that played out in Atlantean catastrophes, how we were able to blame ourselves. So we blamed ourselves because of love, soulmate love that was forbidden. So how do we come back into that? How can we love ourselves through that? How can we heal ourselves to be whole enough to be available for a healthy relationship when we have had nothing anywhere close to that, as most of us supernova souls? And so our task is great at this time for rapid healing and everything that's been keeping us from coming together. Because the message is that, because this Leo new moon on July 24th is, and 25th in some parts of the world, is happening at 2 degrees of Leo, 8 minutes. So 2 degrees is about collaboration. 8 minutes, transformation. So we have to collaborate in order to shine our light and transform the world. And so this is what we're learning how to do again. And it says that we've got to come into that wholeness within our own being. You know, maybe why supernova souls, we had to go to hell and back and to go through so much trauma in order to completely set ourselves free. You know, what's happening in the world is what we've already gone through over these last years. Now the everyday person is having to face the constructs that are holding together a fragment of some illusion of who they think they are. And as those constructs begin to break down, as our matrix reality breaks down, it's like free fall. And the beautiful thing about what you've gone through, supernova soul, and you'd had to do it all alone in the wilderness, you know, to face that darkness, to gain that autonomy, right? To know and your full confidence that you're in alignment, right? So when you have that alignment, you can step forward in that authenticity, in that co-creation status, and you can work miracles from in here, because miracles just are.